You got a dollar and a dream? We'll tell you how to turn it into a bad decision that pays off. We're talking spreads, totals, money line madness, and the bets that your financial advisor told you to avoid. We cover it all. It's time for the picks that are absolutely unnecessary. Welcome to Unnecessary Wagers, right here on the Empty the Bench Network. Now, here's your hosts, Nick DiMartino and Liam Barwick.
My bad. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Nick DiMartino. That's Liam Barwick. This is another edition of Unnecessary Wagers. How you doing today, Liam?
I'm all right. I'm sweating out like so many conference championship bets right now.
Yeah,
this is the best 2 weeks of the year, but yeah, what?
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah, the coach of Indiana should be fired into the fucking sun. That
What
they
happened?
need to win. They need to win basically to do anything, and they're down by 10 to fucking Northwestern right now.
Yeah, that's not good. Well, I mean, we got to lead off the recap we got to lead off with Bam Adebayo. Of course, this happened right after I was done recording the podcast, which would have been a great topic. But yeah, Bam Adebayo put up 83 points. I guess you were pretty good if you had the over.
Yeah, if you had his over, I think his over points hit in the first quarter, right? His
probably.
Over. Yeah,
I mean, what was the over under 20? Like
he had 31 in the first quarter. He had 40 in both halves, obviously over 40 in one of them, but he had at least 40 in both halves. It was crazy. A lot of free throws, 36 points off of free throws, but a craziness. And the most points in NBA history that wasn't completely made up. If you take that one out of circulation, 83 is the most ever. So it was crazy. But I mean, I figured that at some point you're going to get games like this with the way that offense is in the NBA and the way some teams play defense, especially teams like the Wizards.
Yeah, I mean the Wizards are terrible. The thing is though, it's like I don't get why people, like, a lot of people are like getting angry about this because it was kind of forced. And the truth is, whenever a player scores 80 or more points, or 60 or more points even, it's just like, it's always a little forced. It's always their teammates stat padding. Otherwise, there's no way you would ever be able to score that many points. Nobody can truly organically, in a pure basketball sense, in a basketball purist standpoint, put up 83. That could never happen. And people are talking about like comparing it to Kobe's 81 points. It's like, it was the exact same thing. It was the same thing. It was forced when Kobe did it too. Just like Kobe's final game where he put up, I think it was 50 or 60 points. That was also forced because it was his final game and it was his teammates basically stat padding for him. So that's always what happens whenever a player puts up that many points. But regardless, it's still pretty amazing. It's like, it's so weird hearing people have like that type of attitude about it. It's like, do you even like the sport? Because otherwise, Miami Heat versus the Wizards on a Tuesday night is a pretty meaningless game.
Correct.
It's a totally meaningless game. And Bam Adebayo putting up 83 points. Okay, that's entertaining. That makes it a story. It puts this game in history. Like, it's to the point where I remember where I was the night that Bam Adebayo put up 83 points. It's like, it's always against bad teams. It's always in games that otherwise would have been meaningless, just like with Kobe's 81-point game against the Raptors.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. It's But it's just that's just the way of the internet now. I mean, if the internet was around during the Kobe, it was around. But if the internet was as prevalent as it is now, it would be the same thing, I think.
Yeah, I do. But because the thing with Kobe, though, is that because he's retired and because he's dead, there's a certain level of like a remembrance as if of him as like a godlike figure. And, when Kobe back in our day, 20 years ago, when this happened, well, that wouldn't have happened. When obviously that's just not true. I mean, same thing with Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point, if you believe it happened. But same thing there. It was all stat padding.
Yeah, of course, exactly. So it's but I mean, all of it's stat padding to an extent. I mean, I don't know what gets considered stat padding and what gets considered just scoring at any point, but I mean, it's of course there's always going to be people to rain on the parade.
But like it's the similar thing with like it's a similar thing with like no hitters in baseball. I mean, there are times like Johan Santana, for instance, had no business staying in that game when he pitched them against the Cardinals. But they did it but they kept him in because they wanted the no-hitter. They wanted history to be made for the team, especially for a team like the Mets that never had a no-hitter. It's the same thing. I didn't hear anybody say, oh my God, what were the Mets thinking keeping Johan Santana in the game? It's like, what were they gonna do to see? It's not even like they were a playoff team anyway. They weren't a good team that year. So you might as well get something out of it.
I was curious at the start of the show with Bam Adebayo scoring 86 or 83 points and conference tournament week, how you were going to try and shoehorn a Met reference in there, and that was.
But I mean, it's a good comparison. It's a good comparison. First of all, I make way more Jet references than I do Met references, but it makes sense. I think that's a pretty good comparison, though. Johan Santana's no-hitter meant was just like Bam Adebayo's 83 points. It was in a game in the middle of May that was otherwise meaningless. In a season that would have been otherwise meaningless, but at least we have that bright spot of Johan Santana throwing the no-hitter. That's really all it was.
Yeah.
It's almost like this weird sense of like sports autism that some sports fans have, where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe this. It's not, it's bad for the purity of the sport. As if you're just as if regular people are just sitting down on a Tuesday night watching the worst team in basketball. Like normally we would not even remember who played last night.
Right. No, I mean, but most people will forget this in a few days. You know what I mean? This will go out of the lexicon in a few days, especially in March.
That's true. I mean, we live in the news cycle moves so quickly these days. Yeah. So yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that it'll move out pretty quickly.
Yeah. But yeah, just I guess if you had the over, I don't really bet on the NBA very much. I don't think you do.
I don't bet on the NBA during the regular season, especially in March. I'm so hyper focused on college basketball. I would like this that game. That game was how, or I guess the report on Bam Adebayo, Indiana is so fucking bad. This is ridiculous. The report on Bam Adebayo scoring 83 was how I knew that the Heat and the Wizards played last night.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, I never would have known. And we've seen the Wizards get I remember when the Wizards. I went to a Wizards game one time with my dad when I was 13, and this was John Wall's rookie year, and so the Wizards were very bad at the time, but it was a different bad. It wasn't like it was before they got good and then got bad again. And I remember there was they have a tradition.
They weren't even really good when they were good, but yeah.
They got good. But actually, I think one of those years they got pretty good. But either way, this was when they were still really bad. And I remember they have like a tradition at that stadium to stand until the Wizards score a basket. So we were all standing there, and we were standing for like 5 minutes. It was so ridiculous until they finally scored a basket.
Yeah. They've been a joke for a while. I mean, that was an interesting one. It was more of like a modern way to score 83 points, but Yeah, I think it's an amazing accomplishment, but it will probably move out of the news cycle very quickly, especially with March Madness and all that stuff. It was a great story, but there have been a lot now with the way offenses score now. Like when Kobe Bryant hit the 81, like offenses didn't score the way they did now either. So
Yeah, that's
it
true.
was a little more. I'm not saying that that either one is better, but I'm just saying it was a little more like shocking.
Yeah. But like my general point of it though is just like it's just so weird to be such a basketball purist that you can't just appreciate an amazing accomplishment and witnessing history. Like
Right.
that's super weird to me because it's not like you'd be sitting here just breaking down the Wizards, a March Wizards Heat game.
Right.
Like it's just dumb. It's just really dumb. It's similar. It's very similar to no hitters in baseball when pitchers are kept in way longer than they should because they want to get a no hitter. It's the same type of thing.
Mhm.
Can we recap some of last week's games? Our picks. I barely won my Florida Kentucky bet. It was 6.5. I won by a hook. I don't know how much of that game you watched.
Not much, but I do know that you won by the hook, and fucking Semolina. I do know that you won by the hook, and I do know that Kentucky is terrible by their standards, as I said on the show. Florida is very good. I lost a few of them. Seton Hall, it should have been a push. Guy on Seton Hall fouled for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
After they missed 2 in a row. Also, St. John's got every single call imaginable in that game. It was that game was ref semi heavily towards St. John's, to be honest. But I had
bought the ref a prostitute.
It felt like it, and St. John's gave me no. I don't know what the right word is, but they didn't give me anything that impressed me in that game either. Seton Hall's offense was horrible. St. John's offense was almost just as bad, which St. John's have been a bad team offensively forever. And yeah, but especially this season, their offense hasn't clicked. I mean, I was not really impressed by that game. I just had a few ones that just didn't go down. San Diego State, I had that they barely won. It's tough to win in March. It's really tough. And it's a frustrating. It's the most fun and most frustrating sport to bet on as well.
Yeah, basketball in general is so frustrating because any little thing can happen. But at the same time, that's the case I think if anything, it's more frustrating if you're winning, but often less frustrating if you're losing because then you're kind of in it for a long time. So it could be a little bit of, I feel like it's a little bit of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's just tough to figure out. Also, I wouldn't say basketball. I mean, the NBA is completely different. It could be frustrating if you lose, but like for instance, I was saying today, I was just saying, I bet Indiana, and at one point the defender for Northwestern fell down, and the Indiana guy had a wide open layup that he missed on the front end of the rim. It's like that stuff doesn't happen in the NBA. Like that stuff is beyond frustrating.
I think that's part of the reason, though, college basketball is so entertaining is because the quality of play is so bad.
Yeah, of course, because it's chaotic. It's chaotic, but it's enthralling. But yeah, it's extremely chaotic, and it's just madness. So literally, no pun intended, but yeah, it's one of the more frustrating sports to bet on.
Yeah, for sure. Oh,
as fun as it is.
Wait, what bet do you have in Indiana Northwestern?
It doesn't matter. Indiana's getting completely run off the floor.
Yeah,
I had Indiana -6. Indiana's getting completely run off the floor.
Yeah, they're getting killed.
I also took Texas, and Sean Miller's doing his annual March choke a little bit early this year.
Yeah,
losing to their own coach. And the Indiana one is frustrating because I had Indiana in a parlay, and one of the picks I had in the parlay was UCF +3, and UCF were down like 10 the entire game, came back, won the game. So I was feeling good. And then Indiana, who needs to win the game, because they lost a terrible game to Northwestern at home this year, are getting completely run off the court. They were up 1 at halftime. They're down 15 right now.
Wow.
In Indiana, I mean, just ridiculous. And there's another one that I'll get into in the picks. But yeah, that was frustrating. Yeah, I mean, it's the best 2 weeks of betting, in my opinion. This tournament, the conference tournaments, and then the NCAA tournament, because there's just constant games on. Yeah. There's no break from it, and it's the best. I love it as much as frustrating as it gets.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you say the best weeks of betting or worst weeks of betting, depending on how everything goes.
It still gets your heart rate and everything up.
That's true. That's the whole point of making bets.
Right.
And we got to talk about your Sun Devils.
Do we?
Losing by
we lost by 49.
Losing by 49 points. You lost by an AARP card, an AARP membership, almost to Arizona State, Iowa State.
Iowa State, and they got rid of. They're not extending Bobby Hurley's contract, which was, I thought was something that was possibly up in the air. Potentially, it looked like they were going to they were not going to extend Bobby Hurley. Bobby Hurley sort of does enough to keep his job every year, and it was looking like he did enough at one point, because he beat Kansas and he beat Texas Tech, and then they went into Iowa State on Saturday. They were up at halftime. Iowa State went on a 24-0 run at one point in the game, and then they won yesterday, where again it was like, can Hurley make a run here? If they win the next one, it's possible. And they got beat by 50. They had 10 points with 2 minutes left in the first half. So Bobby Hurley is out. He had a horrible Big 12. I think he was 10 and like 28 or something, 38. He was really bad in the Big 12. So see ya, and we'll see what happens next. But yeah, that was as bad as it gets, and it was just horrible for Bobby Hurley, but is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe you guys just need a fresh start. I guess that's one,
fresh start. He's been the coach since I was a freshman.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe you just need a fresh start. Like the thing with I mean, I never thought I'd see a Hurley's contract not get extended. That's pretty crazy.
The thing is, like, by Arizona State standards, he had very good years. He went to the NCAA tournament 3 times, and it would have been 4 times if COVID didn't cancel one NCAA tournament. But the thing is, he went to the 3, I think the first 3 he went in his first 6 years. They haven't gone in 4 straight. No, they went 2 years ago. So this would be the 3rd straight year they haven't gone. It's a 3rd straight losing season. They've been horrific in play, and it hurts them bad. It hurts us badly that our biggest rivals were very good, beat, fired their coach, rehired a coach, hired a new coach, and have been good all in the time that ASU have been sort of like mediocre. And also ASU hit a buzzer beater to beat U of A from half court. They were down 2, and they hit a half court buzzer beater to beat U of A 2 years ago in Tucson. If you take that game out, which is basically a game that they lost, but they won on a miracle shot, he lost 11 consecutive games to Arizona, and he was, I believe, 3-22 against Arizona, which is never going to fly with the fan base. So it was time for him to go. It's a fresh start. They have, they might have to figure something out. Our AD went to ASU, and obviously our football coach went to ASU, and they made a good decision there. So they might have to figure something out. We'll see. I think we could get the guy from Creighton, Greg McDermott.
You think?
It's possible. They might get the guy from GCU as well. I mean, we'll see. It's a completely different landscape. I mean, I just think Hurley was behind the 8 ball in terms of NIL and everything like that, and it just didn't really work out. And it's funny that after years of Danny Hurley being Bobby Hurley's brother, Bobby Hurley is now Danny Hurley's brother.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right, let's get into our picks for this week. So you can start with your 1 unit pick.
Yeah. All right. We'll get into the 1 unit. And again, it can't be understated how big of a joke Indiana are. They're now down 17.
Go ahead. Keep talking about it. They're
horrible. A game they had to win.
Indiana's a football school now. They're not a basketball school
It's a
anymore.
joke. It's a joke. All right. My 1-point play, I'm going to Madison Square Garden, going with a team that needs to win probably 3 games, definitely 2, probably 3 games in the NCAA tournament. We talked about him earlier. Seton Hall going up against Creighton, who I just mentioned, their coach possibly leaving. I've got Seton Hall laying the 3. Friendly crowd for Seton Hall, just down the street from Newark. It's going to be St. John's in the 12 o'clock, Seton Hall in the 2:30. I think Seton Hall's got to win this game. Creighton are teetering on mediocrity. They haven't had a good season. They have some good players, but I think Seton Hall's got to win this game. Shaheen Holloway is going to have them up, and I think this is going to be a good one that might sort of get understated in the scope of the tournament, because before it, you've got St. John's against Providence, there's a lot of things you could talk about with that game. But I think Seton Hall wins this one in a game they must have.
All right. Interesting. I mean, as you know, I can't pick that game because I'm in New Jersey. But okay.
You could pick it at work.
I can pick it at when I go to work, or if I drive 2 or 3 minutes to Rockland County, then I can bet on it. But as long as I'm in the state of New Jersey, I cannot bet on that game. All right. So my 1 unit play, I am going Wake Forest plus 5.5 versus Clemson. Clemson has been in a little bit of a slump lately. I think Clemson has a lot more pressure on them in this game. They haven't really been winning games. Clemson hasn't really been beating teams by very big margins lately, including teams that really aren't very good. Most of their games have been fairly close. Last game against Georgia Tech, they barely slid by. They're able to be competitive against some really good teams or even beat some really good teams, but they don't seem to blow anybody out. They're just one of those teams where they play up and down to their competition. And Wake Forest has looked fairly good lately. I think Clemson probably wins this game outright, especially because Wake Forest beat them last time. It's not always easy to beat a team twice, but I think Wake Forest will keep this game close.
Okay. All right. My 2 unit play, I'm going Wisconsin laying 6.5 against Washington. Washington played today. They beat in a classic old school Big Ten matchup. They beat USC. And that's nuts. That's a Big Ten matchup. But USC team who had maybe one of the worst endings of a season I've ever seen in my life, from losing 5 or 6 straight, losing their best scorer, who's 26, by the way, which is just, college sports is just becoming one of the biggest jokes in the world. Yeah. But Washington played yesterday. They got to play in the afternoon time. Wisconsin going to have the vast majority of the crowd, if not all of it. Good team, Wisconsin. They want to break up into the 5. I think they're at a 6 right now. I think they're going to run Washington out of the gym here. Give me the Badgers laying 6.5.
All right. By the way, I like it a little bit that college players are in their mid-20s because it makes me feel a little younger.
I mean, I guess, but it's a joke that the guy.
You're right. It is a joke that you can be.
Doncic isn't 26. I don't think.
No, he is. He's 27, I think, but he's like 2 years younger than us. But I will say, if you can't be on your parents' health insurance anymore, you probably shouldn't be able to play in college.
Yes.
I mean, come on. It's completely ridiculous. All right, my 2-unit play, I am taking TCU minus 7.5 against Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State has had a rather, I would say Oklahoma State has had a rather rough year. They haven't been, they were able to beat Colorado, but they haven't really played well lately. I think TCU is a much better team. They're a tournament team. Actually, TCU, Oklahoma State took them to overtime last time they played, but I think TCU is going to want revenge. And I just don't see it with Oklahoma State right now. I don't see it. So I'm going with TCU minus the 7.5.
Yeah, I don't have that on my list, but I actually have that I bet that in real life today. If I think TCU is going to cover that one, I agree. Oklahoma State, I actually had Colorado last night, and Oklahoma State won pretty easy. But if Oklahoma State were to somehow win today, they would probably move in to a position where they can be maybe first four out. With Indiana losing right now, Texas currently losing, but I think Texas might come back to win this game.
Texas is losing to Ole Miss.
To Ole Miss, yeah, to their old coach. But I think they're going to – I think that by the time this show is done filming, Texas are going to win the game. But so Oklahoma State does have an opportunity, but I did take that as well. TCU also on the bubble. That's a big one. There was another big one today, UCF versus Cincinnati, that was basically a winner's in, or winner has a good chance to be in, losers out. This is another one. If Oklahoma State win, TCU is probably not going to make it. If TCU win, Oklahoma State's definitely not going to make it.
Yeah, and you want to hear something crazy? Ole Miss is winning, but they're shooting 17% from.
Yeah, because Texas scored their first basket 6 minutes into the game.
Oh, okay. So they just couldn't score.
I've been watching that one. Well, listen, it's they're a hard defensive team. We know that Chris Beard likes to hit hard, so it's going to be a big thing. But remember, Sean Miller is the coach of Texas, and Sean Miller consistently just choked every year at Arizona, every year. I'm so upset that he's not their coach anymore. All right, let's go to my 3-unit. I'm going to the Big 12. We talked about them a little bit earlier. We talked about how Arizona State got beat by 49, one missed free throw from a 50-point loss. What we didn't discuss in that game is how good Iowa State is. Iowa State are very, very, very good. The Big 12 is I think is the best top of a league anywhere in the country. I don't think anyone can compete with the top of the Big 12. And Iowa State and Texas Tech are certainly in that conversation. I'm taking the over 143.5. Texas Tech play high scoring. Iowa State don't always, but Texas Tech really liked to get into those big high scoring games. Texas is coming back now. And I think that this game's a feeling of an over. I think it's going to be a tight game throughout, so I don't like either side. But I think this is going to go down pretty well. Texas Tech, they love that run and gun. They love the three. They live and die by the three at times. So I love that when I'm picking an over. I like this one, 143.5, a little low for those teams. So I like that. We didn't talk about that, by the way.
What?
You when we were talking about games that we picked, BYU beat Texas Tech.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about it, but yeah,
outright. And so that's the Big 12 this year. So I think this could get close. I think this could be a good game, and I think that Texas Tech. I think Iowa State's going to win because Texas Tech went to Iowa and beat the shit out of them about a week ago. But I think that this game goes high.
Yeah, and those teams, those Big 12 teams, the Big 12, they always cannibalize each other. Do you think that the spread seems a little much? Iowa State favored by 5.5?
Well, yes, because Texas Tech killed them the other week in Iowa, but I think there's a lot of recency bias on two things. Iowa State just killed Arizona State twice in a row, and Texas Tech just lost to BYU. And I think a lot of people are high on Iowa State. They're seeing that as a fluke against Texas Tech. That also might have been a look-ahead spot when they lost to Texas Tech because they were playing Arizona the next week. Yeah. So, this is the first time in 12 days that Iowa State have not played a team in the Arizonas.
Interesting. Yeah, they have. Yeah,
they played Arizona, then they played Arizona State twice.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at the stats right. Yeah, AJ DeBansa had.
He was on fire last night.
Yeah, he had an amazing.
Who was that against Texas Tech?
Well, again, I was saying against Texas Tech, they had
last night. He had a terrific game against Kansas State. He had like close to 30. He would have been on Sports Center if Bam Adebayo hadn't scored 83.
Yeah,
AJ DeBansa was on fire last night.
Yeah, he put up. Yeah, he had 40 for a basketball for a college player. 40 points. That's like 60 points almost for like by NBA standards. Because like what is your best player on most teams average per game? It's usually under 20.
Right. Yeah, of course, way under. Yeah.
And now they're beating. Actually, the game they're in a close game against West Virginia.
Yeah, even last night BYU were. I had BYU, and BYU were shooting so well the entire game, and up until like 10 minutes left, it was like very much in doubt. It was really very much in doubt. So their defense is a little all over the place. Obviously, they lost their best player, or I guess second best player because DeBansa. But yeah, he was on fire last night, and all it took was $7 million to get him to go out there. So
yeah,
shout out to BYU.
All right, so our 3-unit play.
I just gave mine.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to change the banner. My bad. My 3-unit play. I am taking Missouri plus 3.5 versus Kentucky. I think these teams are fairly evenly matched. But I like Missouri plus the points because I don't know if I trust Kentucky to cover the 3.5 because Kentucky is just so inconsistent. That's the problem.
I watched them today. I had Kentucky, and they were I said this on the last show. Mark Pope is so fucking lost at Kentucky. They were fighting tooth and nail with LSU, who's 3-15 in conference, and they're fighting Kentucky. Like legitimately. There was a chance that Kentucky could have been out of the tournament. If they had lost today, there's a chance that they would have been out of the tournament. He is completely lost there. I love that pick.
Yeah, and Kentucky, they have to have some buyers, or in this case, sellers' remorse.
Yes, we were talking about that on the last show. Yeah.
Like you've got to be kidding me. Like now really, really, really dumb decision. Even though like, the problem with that move is that there was no perspective behind it. It was like, all right, Calipari's not totally coaching up to his expectations, but without ever thinking of what all the alternatives were.
And the different landscape of college basketball now, and Calipari just has great guard play all the time. I mean, it was a mistake, and it was a big mistake. But Calipari's doing very well at Arkansas. It's a good month to be Italian American. I'll tell you that much. But
well, first of all, there's a whole lot. College basketball has a lot of Italian coaches historically. It's just dominated. It's historically been dominated. But
I was referring to the
World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, which is listen, death, taxes, Tom Izzo in March, and Aaron Judge in a big spot coming up small. Nothing else. Nothing else guaranteed in life except that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So yeah.
All right. So we're going to. Our
4-unit play. I'm losing. I forgot how to count. Yeah. Go ahead.
4-unit play. Clemson minus 5.5 versus Wake Forest. Opposite reason.
Oh, you took. I knew you were going to do that. I could tell. I knew you were going to do that.
Opposite reason that you have. I just think Clemson. Well, I think Clemson is up and down. I mean, they beat Louisville. They barely beat Georgia Tech right before the tournament. I just think they're a team that plays up and down. Wake Forest just haven't impressed at all this season. Good season for Clemson again. Clemson consistently, like, is just always in the mix, which they don't get a lot of shine for because they're a major football school, but Clemson's program has been doing terrific lately. I think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to make a little bit in the ACC. They haven't really been talked about much because of who's at the top of the ACC. I think that when you look at the ACC, really there's a few good teams: Virginia, Miami, North Carolina before they lost their best player, Louisville, and Clemson's in that mix. And you just haven't heard much about it because Duke has taken all the shine. So I think Clemson's going to make a little run here, and I would like to see it happen.
Yeah. So my 4-unit play, I am going with Tennessee -6.5 versus Auburn. I think Tennessee has probably the best maybe I shouldn't take Tennessee again. They burned me last time, but Tennessee -6.5. Tennessee has probably the best defense in the SEC right now. Auburn is not the same team that they were. It didn't help that Bruce Pearl basically admitted he gave the team to his son. that didn't do his son any favors. But yeah, I like Tennessee here to cover the 6.5. Auburn, I think, is a little bit, they're kind of a mediocre team this year.
All right. So this is just for people watching. Me and Nick at the current moment are in completely different states, so that we have a little bit of a difference in odds. I'm taking Tennessee, but my app has Tennessee at 5.5, possibly because of the difference of states. Not sure,
or
but right now,
it could be the time that you bet the game and the time that I looked at it. It may have changed since I last.
What are you looking at right now?
Wait, let me pull it up right now, because I bet that a couple of hours. I put that in a couple of hours ago when I last looked at it. Yeah, it's 5.5.
I'll give you 5.5. I'll give you 5.5. And my reasoning is I watched Auburn a couple of times down the stretch, with the exception of possibly DeVry at Indiana, who Northwestern now officially won the game. That's a joke of a loss for Indiana. The worst coach in college basketball right now in the Big Five is Stephen Pearl, and he's making an ass of himself. First of all, he's in every press conference saying how they should make the tournament. Now, I am a proponent that if Miami of Ohio lose, they should not be in the tournament because their schedule was just an absolute joke. But you cannot go on and on about how we should be in the tournament because we beat Florida, and we should be in the tournament because of other wins, and have 15 losses. Now, I know they have a very hard schedule, but they lost at home to Ole Miss, who was on an 11-game losing streak. Ole Miss, with the exception possibly of beating Texas today, they're up 10. It's still plenty of time left in that one. They've lost 12 of 13 games. Their one win was at Auburn. Auburn struggled mightily today against Mississippi State, who they also lost to this season. Stephen Pearl is he's a terrible head coach, I'll say it. And he is only there because of who his dad is. He is the PBA card of coaches, and he is not doing a good job. If you watch the game today, again, similar to like what's going on in some of these games, Auburn has to win. They had to beat Mississippi State. They did beat Mississippi State, but they were completely flat for 30 minutes of the game. He doesn't have them up. Tennessee is good. I think Tennessee is going to walk them, and Auburn's not going to get in, and they're going to cry and cry and cry, because I do think, and I think that you'll probably – I don't know what you'll think about this, but I do think that Miami of Ohio, I think, is going to lose to Akron in the MAC tournament, and I think that the committee, because they're going to fear the outcry, I think that the committee is going to put Miami of Ohio in anyway.
I agree with you. I think that's probably true. The thing with Auburn is that, look, I understand why coaches talk about why their team should be in. It's the same thing with football. It happens all the time. But I just find it a little off-putting and a little bit hard to take seriously. You know, it's like hearing from an air conditioner salesman that their air conditioner is just so much better than everybody else's. It's like, I get that You're supposed to do that, but it's like, Jesus, man, I can't take you seriously. That's kind of how I feel, especially in basketball, because at least in football, it's some of the best teams that are making that case. in basketball, it's like Auburn is they have a losing record in the SEC. They're 7-11. Like that's such a joke.
Well, I mean, they did have the number 2 strength of schedule in the country, but the one thing I will say that I hate about it is, do you know what happens if you win your conference tournament?
Yeah, you automatically get in the tournament.
Right. So why are you talking about, well, we should be in? You have the fucking conference tournament right now. Right. Worry about going and winning the conference tournament. And then you don't have to worry about the committee. Take it out of the committee's hands. You're saying it when you're losing. And I understand that they beat Florida. Florida went on a run. But to me, Florida also have turned it on. They didn't have a great start to the season. They weren't playing the kind of ball that they're playing right now at that point. Now, I understand that doesn't matter in the eyes of the committee or a quad 1 win. But you lost at home. You lost to Mississippi State, who's way worse record than they have in the ACC. You lost at home to Ole Miss, who that's their one of their last 13 games in the regular season they won. At Auburn. That was the one game you had to win, close out. They got shellacked. That was the game we picked, the over. You couldn't have been more right on that one. Auburn, Alabama.
Yeah.
Alabama won by 12, which is way closer than the game was. The game was out of hand for basically the entire end of the first half, second half. They got trounced by Oklahoma. They barely beat Kentucky, who we talked about. So I understand, but you can't also be like, oh, we should be in. If they should be in, they should have all firing on all cylinders and beaten the brakes off of Mississippi State today. And it was very close up until the end.
Yeah. No, I don't
so
disagree at all.
I'm with you on Tennessee.
Okay. So, and we got an extra point, so that's good. All right. So, my 5-unit play is Virginia minus 5.5 against NC State. I think that Virginia is just really being overshadowed. Like you said before, they're really just all the good teams in the ACC, the top of the ACC. They're all just being overshadowed by Duke, who is, I think, far and away the best. I think probably,
of course,
the best team in college basketball right now. At least I think. And look, Virginia, they haven't lost in. I mean, they've had a few close calls out, and they did get blown out by Duke, and that game wasn't close. But they haven't lost since I think January when they played UNC. I think that's the last time. If I'm not mistaken, I think.
They got shellacked by Duke at the end. They got.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before Duke, before losing to Duke. That's the last time they lost. So they're not losing a lot of games. They're figuring out a way to win. And every time they play NC State, just like the last time they played, they won by like 30 points in the time. I think they played twice this year, if I'm not mistaken. And neither of those games were close. I think I could see the same thing happening this time. It just seems like Virginia. Yeah, the last time they played, they won 90-61. And then the time before that, they won 76-61. So these games aren't really all that close. I think they should be able to cover the 5.5. Let me just double check to make sure it's still 5.5. Because last time I looked, it might have a couple of hours ago. It might have changed, but it should still be 5.5. Yeah, it's still 5.5.
I mean, so what I would say about that is I actually think when you're talking about Duke in the ACC and the overshadowing, I know that we just said that they killed NC State, but I actually think that the gap between UVA, who's second in the ACC, and NC State, who's seventh in the ACC, is shorter than the gap between Duke, who's 1, and Virginia, who's 2 in talent.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah, and that's like the overshadowing. Same thing in the Big Ten. The Big Ten has been a very good conference this year. A little bit overshadowed because Michigan, but those teams in the Big Ten are good. But Michigan, as I said in the other show, Michigan, Arizona, Duke, and Florida are just so much better than everyone. So you can be a good team. Virginia's number 10 in the country. They're a very good team. Got beat by 27 at Duke against Duke.
Yeah.
NC State is going to be in the NCAA tournament, home game to Duke got beat by 29. Yeah. So Duke is just way above. That's why they're getting that praise. Or that's why there hasn't been enough praise down the line of the ACC, because it's just one team is way overshadowing.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go into our locks.
Okay. All right. I am going with a game tonight. I've got Idaho -3.5 against Montana. Montana just went to a big emotional game, a few days ago against North Colorado. They've got an upset they got a big upset last night. So they've gone through a rigmarole here. Idaho, I think, are the better team, and Montana might be worn down from what they've gone through in the last few days. This is why the conference tournaments are the best. By the way, did you see Siena is going to the speaking of runs, Siena is going to the NCAA tournament. Did you see that? And do you know who their coach is?
No.
Jerry McNamara.
Oh, really?
One of the great runs before Kemba Walker's great Big East run. Jerry McNamara had one of the great Big East runs of all time. Yeah. It was that like 2010. And I think he's going to be the Syracuse coach coming up.
Yeah, I mean, we want to talk about, like, we were talking about we were talking about Kentucky like falling off. I mean, Syracuse, I think they might be worse than Kentucky.
Yeah.
That program's totally filled.
Well, of course they're worse than Kentucky. Syracuse is a joke now. They had their first ever. They fired their coach today. They have their first ever back-to-back losing seasons since 1966, 1967, something like that. It's just they were lost. I think they're another team. I mean, they went to the Final Four in this span, so it's kind of a dumb thing to say. But they're another team that I think it just was a weird move to leave the Big East and go to the ACC. It just never really made a lot of sense. And I mean, they really just lost that pedal to the metal mentality when Jim Boeheim left, and they really are just struggling. So I do think they're going to probably go with McNamara, but yeah, they've really struggled. And I think when you had like a lot of these coaches, like Boeheim is one of them. Roy Williams was one of them, even though North Carolina is doing pretty good. They went to a national championship since he left. But a few of these guys, Jay Williams at Villanova, like they were such great recruiters. And now with NIL, like I don't see how like Syracuse, maybe if there's like some rich journalists, but like I don't see how Syracuse is ever going to compete in NIL in a conference with Duke and North Carolina. And Miami, Virginia, like they're just never going to compete in that. They're really not. And so NIL is becoming a lot of the haves and have-nots. But like I just don't see it unless like there's some really rich journalist that loves the program. But if you don't have a lot of NIL money and you're like, hey, you want to come to upstate New York where everything's closed at 7:00 on a Friday and there's snow all year round, like it's tough to do. So
yeah, well, here's the thing, though. First of all, you say there's a lot of rich journalists that went to Syracuse, and I would say the rich journalists went to Syracuse probably more often than the not so rich journalists. But but here's the thing that Syracuse has that any big program could have with the NIL, which is that Syracuse is still a big basketball brand and a storied program. So just that alone can help out. And if you have a coach who is good at recruiting, or potentially is just a big name, I think that can work pretty well with NIL. Like look at Deion Sanders at Colorado, for instance. It's a drastic example, but like just his name attracted a whole lot of new recruits. So
how's he been doing outside of 1 year?
No, he's been bad.
Right. So
but I think that the point I'm making is that if you just getting a big name by itself can help with recruiting. It doesn't mean it's going to work if they can't.
Well, I think nowadays getting a big name can help with firing the fan base up to donate to NIL as well.
True.
But do you think the coach of BYU is an insane recruiter that he got AJ DeBanza last year and he got the number 6 prospect, or do you think they gave AJ DeBanza $7 million? I mean,
no, they just gave him $7 million.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the NIL world is completely different, and a lot of these teams, there's a lot of reasons these guys left. I mean, frankly, it's one of the reasons Nick Saban kind of left. And Alabama is probably very competitive, but who knows down the line if these rich alumni keep giving to schools, Alabama might not have a rich alumni base and Alabama might go downhill, but it's going to be a lot of that. I mean, Texas Tech is very good in both sports. They essentially bought one of the most expensive rosters. They were looking to pay $10 million for a quarterback this year in the draft portal.
And if you look at the schools that have won in the post-NIL era, they have bigger endowments than the schools that were winning before in the pre-NIL era. If you look at teams like Ohio State, Notre Dame, Indiana, I mean, those teams have, graduates from those schools make a lot more money than graduates from Georgia or Alabama. Not to knock those folks, but it's just a fact that they make more money than they do on average.
Right. And a lot of Texas Tech alums went into the oil and gas industry. They're very rich. Texas Tech was able to field an insanely rich roster that was much better than BYU. As you saw, they had a good program, but they spent a lot of their money on the basketball program, which has been okay for them. And you saw the difference in money when they played Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship.
Yeah,
Tech beat the shit out of them. So yeah, I think that Syracuse's woes are you almost have to be like, now I feel like you almost have to be a politician as much as a recruiter, which is to say you have to go out and get donations.
Yeah, it's a good point. But it's not even, a lot of it is really out of their hands though. Like you said, if you don't have like a rich fan base, there's only so much you can do about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think that is absolutely true. All right. So my lock of the week, I am going with St. John's minus 10.5 versus Providence. I have not been very high on St. John's this year, so I'm always a little bit worried, but this is a de facto home game for St. John's. I think St. John's is a much, much better team than Providence. What?
It's not even a de facto home game.
Not even a de facto home game, literally in their stadium.
Yeah.
So I think they should be able to cover this number against Providence. I really like this one a lot. They won by 10 last time. I think that game was what?
You think the game? That was the most famous St. John's game of the season. A little bad.
Yeah, that was the game with the fight.
With the haircut and the fight. Yeah, BYU's up big now. Love it. St. John's, but St. John's, I think I'm feeling a little first weekend bounce for St. John's yet again. I watched them a few times recently and not impressed.
I agree. I
think they'll be a terrible. Yeah.
I just really like them this game. I'm not saying they're going to win the whole thing. I think they look kind of similar to the way they did last year. Maybe we'll see another fight with the Providence guy with the haircut.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are the picks through the conference tournament week. We're going to be back for the big one, the tournament. We'll do probably a few shows during the tournament. So everybody enjoy conference tournament week. Enjoy getting through it, and we'll see you next week for the NCAA tournament edition of Unnecessary Wagers.
Yep. See you guys next week. Good luck on your bets.